Well, based upon the speeches that I've heard from Russian President Putin and the other interviews that he's done and things that he said, what he wants is very simple. He wants security. He wants the United States to live up to the agreement that the United States made back in 1991 when the Soviet Union agreed for the reunification of Germany, East and West. And the United States promised the Soviet Union that NATO would not expand any further eastward than Germany. And now when you look at a map of Europe, Russia is surrounded by Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria. These are all NATO countries with U.S. troops, NATO forces, NATO missiles. And Vladimir Putin has been saying very clearly for 12, 13 years, we're only going to let you go so far. And the United States is using Ukraine as a proxy. And he drew the line in the sand, and we are where we are.
Zelensky is the U.S. using Ukraine?
Is a desperate guy.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's a desperate guy. He just, he's following the U.S. directive. Go back to March or May when the United States encouraged Zelensky to send troops to the border, and Joe Biden wound up having to call Zelensky and have those troops withdrawn. Zelensky is following the U.S. narrative the same way the Kurds did when they were encouraged to fight Saddam Hussein, and we know what happened to them.
What will these sanctions do, and what will they not do?
What they won't do to Russia is really have a long-term dramatic impact on their economy. What they will do to Europe is make their gas prices higher, make it more expensive for them to get grain, because Russia is the largest exporter of grain in the world. I think they're the number 2 largest supplier, or number 3 supplier of natural gas and oil. A couple of things, if I could just quickly get to, if you listen to what Putin has said, he wants to do primarily 2 things. He wants to denazify Ukraine, and he wants to demilitarize the Ukraine. The United States narrative keeps talking about democracy, 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 but the one thing that never gets answered is, why did the United States go into the Ukraine in 2014 and overthrow their democratically elected government and install a pro-America government when that was not the government that was elected by the Ukrainian people? The other thing that Putin is doing is protecting what are known as ethnic Russians in the Donbass region, Luhansk and Donetsk, as they are being attacked and shelled by the Nazi Ukrainian forces from the West. Again, this isn't being discussed. In fact, 4 days before Russia went in to Ukraine, the Security and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe saw 5,667 violations of the Minsk Accords as the Nazis from the West were bombing the people in Luhansk and Donetsk. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that is just not getting reported because it goes against the dominant Western narrative. You've got a lot of Nazis in very powerful positions in the Ukrainian government. There's a dominant narrative that the world is united. That's just not true. Israel, for example, has not backed the resolution in the UN condemning Russia. There's not one Muslim country that has backed the UN resolution. You've got Poland, Bulgaria, and Slovakia that are not sending, and these are EU countries, that are not sending fighter planes, MiG fighter planes to Ukraine. So it's not as dominant of a wave of support as the United States is making it out to be. And in terms of Putin giving the message that it's okay to invade countries, I think the United States sent that message when it invaded Afghanistan. I think the United States gave that message when it invaded Syria. I think the United States gave that message when they murdered Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And we, of course, can't forget what we did to Saddam Hussein in Iraq. So, and by the way, Putin isn't trying to take over Ukraine. If he wanted to do that, it would have been done 3 or 4 days ago.
So what is he trying to do if he's not trying to take over Ukraine?
He's trying to demilitarize and denazify the country.
And in the process is invading and destroying civilian locations, and civilians are dying along the way, being killed along the way. And the accusation that the Ukraine is run by Nazis that's debatable, and it's also hard to understand.
I didn't say it was run by. I didn't say it was run by Nazis. I didn't say it was run by Nazis. What I said is there's a very strong Nazi contingent called the Azov Brigade in Ukraine that the United States, through the CIA, has been funding, training, and used in 2014 to overthrow the democratically elected government of Viktor Yanukovych.